Hey everyone, episode 16 of the Holland-a-thon, and today I will be watching Onward. And I did see this movie already. I saw it once when it was in theaters. And I believe it was the second to last film I ever saw in a theater before lockdown happened. In case you're wondering, the last film was Birds of Prey. What can I say about this movie except that I really enjoyed it? I am a big Pixar fan. I try to see every one of their movies in theaters. It doesn't always work out, but most of the times I manage to do it. The reason I can't always do it is because I really value the English version, and because of where I live, the English version is mostly only shown for like a week or two, and then after that you only get Dutch dubbings, which I don't enjoy. But anyway, that's not important. The important thing is I really like Pixar, and I really like Tom Holland, and I also quite like Chris Pratt, so when I heard those three terms were all combined in one movie, I was like, yes, I have to see this one. So I watched it in theaters. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but not as much as I had hoped. I'm not a big fan of fantasy settings. I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan, never watched Game of Thrones. That sort of, the medieval fantasy setting doesn't really appeal to me, but I really liked how that medieval fantasy setting was kind of upgraded to like a modern fantasy setting. I thought that was really cool. And that was also one of the reasons I wanted to see this film. I like the D&D stuff. I've only played like 3 times in my life, but I did really enjoy playing then. And I liked the references, even though I probably didn't get them all. And yeah, I'm not going to say any more because, well, I still need to rewatch it. But just in general, I'd say this is a pretty good movie. So with that being said, I'm going to rewatch it now. I am definitely looking forward to it. And I'll let you know if that looking forward was justified after I've seen the film. I'm back, and I really enjoyed it. Probably more so than the first time I watched it. Onward is the tale of 2 elven brothers who have to go on a quest to retrieve a phoenix gem in order to bring back their deceased father. However, they can only bring him back for 1 day. As you can already tell, the usual Pixar themes of family and friendship are in this movie. One reason this movie works so well for me is that I really enjoy the brother dynamic. It's both very realistic and also a bit idealized, and yeah, they just play off each other very well. I have a brother myself, and that dynamic between Ian and Barley just hit very close to home for me. And as if that relationship wasn't good enough, there's also the characters of the mother and father, who, although they're not featured that much in the film, also have really strong personalities and play off with the other characters very well. So basically, I just thought that everyone was a very well realized character. Another thing I really like is the setting. I think it's very creative to mix this fantasy world with our boring modern world, so that you have centaurs riding cars and pixies in motorbike gangs. The entire world was really cool, and I'd love to see more from this world, although I don't think a sequel would work that well, because the journey of the characters is finished in this movie, and I don't think there's much material there for a sequel, so maybe just a spin-off in this world. Although that would seem a bit like milking out, so maybe not. I also really like the story structure. I really enjoy stories about quests and journeys, going from A to B, that kind of stuff. My favorite franchise is Indiana Jones, which of course applies this structure very well. And speaking of indie, I found a lot of references in this movie. The one I like the most is when they run through a hallway walking on pressure plates that shoot out arrows while they're walking away from a giant sphere, I mean cube. And then at the end of the sequence, the door that's shutting really slowly they can just manage to slip through, and Ian even pulls on the leash that his father is attached to, the same way that Indy pulls on his whip in that scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Look, I'm a simple man. I see an Indy reference I like. The cast was great. I think Chris Pratt nailed it as Barley. I saw some reviews on Letterboxd that weren't big fans of Chris Pratt in this movie, and I just have to say I disagree. Despite him having a very recognizable voice, I often found myself forgetting that Chris Pratt was actually voicing Barley. I was just completely convinced by his character, and the same goes for Tom Holland, who voices Ian. Obviously, I know what Tom Holland's voice sounds like, but I often just found myself forgetting that I was listening to Tom Holland. I'm fairly sure, not entirely sure, but I'm fairly sure that he disguised his voice a little bit. I think he speaks a bit higher in this movie, just ever so slightly. If that's true, and once again I don't know if it is, that probably helped with me forgetting that I was listening to Tom Holland. Anyway, he brings a lot of emotion and character to the table, and I just really like both of their characters. Speaking of Tom Holland, Ian Lightfoot is 16 years old in this film. That actually was a pretty big plot point, and I'm very grateful for that, so I don't have to look up how old he was. And in the graph that looks like this, we had a slight peak in Spies in Disguise where he was 20, and now he's back to playing 16-year-olds. That definitely seems to be a preferred age. So all in all, I really like this movie. I'd say I love it. It's this weird thing where when I watch it, I'm really into it. I get emotional. I love it very much. But then afterwards, when I think back on it, I don't feel the urge to rewatch it. A lot of the early Pixar films, I just want to rewatch all of the time, which probably also has something to do with nostalgia. But like when I think about Finding Nemo, I just think, I need to watch that movie again, even if I watched it like a week ago. But with Onward, I don't really have that. I'm not sure if it's just because of nostalgia or because there's something quite missing in this film. If there is something missing, I can't really specify what it is exactly. So I'm not going to take away points for that. All in all, I'm going to give Onward a 9 out of 10 for having a very enjoyable story and also a very nice story structure, combined with an incredibly creative and interesting world and some very strong characters. That just makes a pretty damn enjoyable and emotional film. Next episode I'm going to watch The Devil All the Time, so do join me for that, and I will see you then. Goodbye.